So we're going to do a little check-in because some teams have started their off-season workouts, and we're finally hearing from some guys. Now, it's not like nothing's like fully mandatory for the veterans yet. However, most have decided to show up, get to know the new guys, and we're finally getting some updates. So welcome to the quarterback injury report and how they're handling it. And let's get started with Joe Burrow. Yeah. Now, let me refresh your memory once again because he got paid last season. At the time, it was the biggest contract in history, quarterback history, as far as money per year, still the biggest. But he was not 100% in preseason, right? He was dealing with a calf injury. Then in November, he tore a ligament in his wrist.
Right.
But what we love about Burrow is after he got injured, he was still there, down on the sidelines, with a headset on, still being as involved as he could with the team. Even now, he's there with the team. He's doing the off-season workouts, and he's been open and transparent about his recovery, and he spoke earlier, giving us a little update this week.
This has definitely been one of the most challenging parts of my life for the last several months, but we're getting through it and continuing to improve, mentally and physically every day. So it's definitely a challenge and a process. I'm going to be smart about it. If I need a break, I need a break. The wrist maybe is going to hurt sometimes, and I'm going to be honest and with myself about how my body's feeling, maybe a little more cautious than I have been in years past.
I mean, that might be one of the tougher injuries for
a quarterback.
In
your throwing wrist. That's the thing. Is AJ Hawk actually talked about this on the Pat McAfee show because he had the same injury.
Okay.
And he said they had to take a tendon from his left wrist to put in his right.
Ooh.
Which is insane. And when you think about a quarterback and the way that they need to put a spin on the ball, the way they maneuver the ball,
all in the wrist.
There is some concern, I think, in Cincinnati. We'll talk to Kelsey about this a little bit later.
We will.
About how close to 100% he's actually going to be. But I like that he's being smart. I like that he's being transparent. I like that he's still around the team. That's the biggest thing for me.
That's the number one thing.
Is you talk about like rookie wide receivers like Jermaine Burton, who the team took this year. I mean, he was already talking at rookie minicamp about how much his conversations with Joe Burrow up until this point have meant to him.
Yeah.
And that is a leader. That is the quarterback you want on the team. That is why you made him the highest paid quarterback.
Yep.
It's not just for his talent. It's not just for what he can contribute onto the field, although we really need to stop talking about Joe Burrow like he isn't something incredibly special, because he is when he's on the field.
He is, but he has had a few big injuries already in his NFL career. He tore his ACL his rookie season. Obviously, the calf struggles wasn't like a big thing, but then the torn ligament in his wrist. And if Burrow has any more major injuries, especially this season, is it time to start thinking about having some sort of serious insurance policy to start developing another quarterback behind him?
That's absolutely a question the Bengals are asking themselves. But also, let's not get too ahead of ourselves either. There have been plenty of quarterbacks that have come back from early career injuries. I can think of Drew Brees, we were talking about earlier, came back and had a wonderful career. Joe Montana did the same thing and went on to multiple Super Bowls after that. Yeah. So I don't want to panic just yet, especially when, you think about his earlier injuries were almost a direct result of the fact that he had no protection, no offensive line around him.
Yes.
The Bengals have now
the most sacked quarterback, right? His rookie year.
Set sack records because and again,
ACL, which
quarterbacks
is what's going to happen.
The dirty little secret is that quarterbacks are not blameless in sacks, but in this case, it was very different.
Yeah.
The Bengals have spent the couple of years since heavily investing in the offensive line. You got 2 6'8" tackles on each side of this line now.
Protection.
Lots of protection, and you have depth, which is the big key along the Cincinnati front. So I'm excited to see what it looks like this year for the Bengals, because again, they have a really good team. They've got a really underrated defense. They've got some really good pieces. You're going to have to pay Jamar Chase very soon.
Yeah.
But I need to see Joey just get back out there.
Yeah.
And I want that for him. I want that for the Bengals, because he is something so incredibly special when he is healthy.
Yeah.
And again, we can stop talking about, is he injury prone? Do the Bengals need a contingency plan? Yada, yada, yada. If he plays this whole full season, I'm on board.
Yeah, but as you said, he's feeling it. It's going to hurt. It's his wrist. So you have to be so careful. So careful with that. Okay, let's move on to Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. This had to be, again, one of the craziest opening games we've ever seen.
4 snaps into it.
Running out with the American flag in New York on 9/11. So much hype around Rodgers and this new beginning.
another-
and 4 plays in Terry
There's irony
Achilles.
there. There's irony there, being that he's a 9/11 conspiracy theorist. But anyway.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh,
That-
yeah. Aaron Rodgers has questioned the
No.
validity of 9/11 and
No.
then ran out with the American flag. Also for a team that is owned by a massive pharmaceutical company. But
This is okay. So Rodgers made sure to stay in the spotlight all of last season for all the wrong reasons.
for all the wrong reasons.
All the wrong
wrong
reasons,
reasons.
right? There was talk he might come back also at the end of the season, which was pure crazy for a 40-year-old recovering from one of the craziest injuries you can have. Felt like he was kind of stringing the Jets on with his return and
Yes, he
never
was.
they never fully recovered. They should have gone out and got a veteran quarterback.
I can't
once
believe they
he
didn't
went
sign Joe
down.
Flacco because you see what the Browns
What?
did. And like if the Jets had had Joe
What were
Flacco,
you
they would have been
thinking?
fine.
What were you thinking?
They would have probably been a playoff team with Joe Flacco.
100%. The Browns were.
Yes.
We'll get to that in a second. But he is back. He's there doing off-season workouts. He's got 2 more years on his contract, but I personally have very low expectations
Same.
for Rodgers and the Jets.
He's been actually kind of quiet for a while.
Yeah,
Although
ever
he did,
since
he did
since
show
the
up.
Pat McAfee, he got kicked off Pat McAfee. I feel like
So
that was his weekly.
I talked to a guy. I talked to a
TV
couple guys over there,
appearance.
by the way. He didn't get kicked off, and I'm not the one to come to the defense of Aaron Rodgers. I'm really not. But
Yeah.
he was never contracted to be on during the offseason.
Yeah.
Is what I was told by Pat's
Sure.
people. So I was
Spin
like,
it.
okay, fine,
Spin
it, whatever.
Spin
I know.
it however
Like I
you
said,
need
I'm
to
not the
spin
one.
it.
I'm not the one.
But that was his spotlight.
But did you see him? He was at the Kentucky Derby, which is a thing that he does.
Yeah.
But did you also notice that none of his Jets teammates were with him? It was all like former Packers, like Devontae Adams was
Yeah.
there, David Bakhtiari's brother, who like they're all good friends with Aaron.
He's not close with them yet.
He
didn't spend the season with them.
But that should tell you a lot because you're still currently playing. And I get it. It's kind of the same thing about when I was with Tampa and we had Tom Brady. I don't think any Tampa fan, I think Tampa fans, to their credit, were very self-aware
Yeah.
of like, we're renting Tom Brady. Tom
Yes.
Brady doesn't belong to us.
No, but
we're renting
But
him.
he is bringing you a.
But
Super
yeah, we're
Bowl,
gonna rent him for a couple of
so
years.
You're welcome.
And he's gonna bring us a championship, and he did,
Yeah.
which was great. But they're under no illusions that Tom Brady belongs to the Buccaneers, much in the way that I don't think Jets fans should be disillusioned into the fact that
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers belongs to you.
No.
But Tom didn't do stuff like this when he was currently playing for the Bucs with another teammate. Like, in fact, he would bring other teammates that he was currently playing
Well,
with.
yeah, he
to
brought
whatever.
his teammates
So it's still a bad look.
to the Bucs. So he brought Gronk with him. So he had Gronk
Well, yeah,
with
he
him
did that
everywhere.
too. But so
it's
did Aaron,
like,
for
he
that
still
matter.
had
He
it.
brought his friends along
He
too.
Did. He did.
But when Tom was at the Bucs, he would tell, like, you saw him hanging out with Mike Evans. You
Yeah.
saw him hanging, like, whatever. You didn't. He would bring those guys along, and whereas like Aaron is just kind of. I'm impressed that he's at OTAs though, because that's not
Yeah.
something he was doing with the Packers in his
Well,
later
he's-
years.
Again, he's got a.
I don't
bump up
have
his
any
image.
expectations for Aaron
Low.
Rodgers this year. I really
Low.
don't.
Okay, let's move on to another Achilles injury. Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
But boy, was there some unexpected drama here. He decided to make the move to Atlanta. They paid him a huge contract, $180 million.
$100 million of which is guaranteed.
Over 4 years, 100 guaranteed. And
Who's out
it
after two?
recently came out that he decided to go to Atlanta because the Vikings were planning to draft a quarterback. And well, the grass isn't always greener. Falcons, with the 8th overall pick, selected Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback from Washington. And this shocked
Still insane.
everybody, the fans,
Still
Kirk,
insane.
the
I'm
football
not over
world.
it.
Now, I know we
I'm
completely...
not over it, Alex.
I know we're not.
We went back and forth about this 2 weeks
we'd
ago.
agree
I'm
on
not
this,
over it.
But what's done is done, okay? And I like to look on the bright side of life. So hopefully this will be a great learning and growing experience for Penix. But boy, does this suck for Kirk Cousins. And I'm just going to say that. He's also coming off the biggest injury of his career. He will be 36 when the season starts. Both Kirk and Penix seem like good humans. They're both already with their new team at the offseason workouts. But this situation, it's not like the same one in Pittsburgh as I mentioned off the top of the show, but it's another quarterback situation that like you're going to want to watch and tune in because it's a reality TV drama.
It concerns me because Kirk Cousins is already fully participating in phase 2 of the Falcons offseason program, which phase 2 is where the coaches can actually go through walkthroughs with you. Phase 1, coaches are not allowed to the field with you. You can work out with the training staff. You can work out on your own with your fellow players. You cannot be under the guide of coaches.
Okay.
Phase 2, coaches are on the field. He's already fully participating in that. And I'm not saying that, like, obviously he's under the care of the best doctors in the world and they're telling him what he can and can't do. And this is all like walkthrough stuff anyway. So it's nothing that's too strenuous. But now that he knows that there's this fresh-faced rookie
he's not going to take it as easy
breathing
as he
down
should.
his back.
No.
Is he really going to be as patient with himself as he
No.
needs to be at 36 years old,
training
coming off an Achilles injury?
No, he's training his backup. He's training his replacement. He's training
Which
his
is not
replacement.
uncommon in the NFL, but it is uncommon to where you don't have a rapport with the team yet.
No.
Like, that's where this situation, and I hate the
and
comparison.
you came to this team because you were under the impression they were not going to do this.
I hate the comparison between what Kirk Cousins is dealing with and what Aaron Rodgers dealt with in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers was fully entrenched for years,
Yes.
a decade and a half, over a decade and a half, with the Green Bay Packers before they brought in Jordan Love.
Yeah.
And it was not like they knew that they wanted Jordan Love to sit too. So Rodgers' job was not in any imminent danger. No one had seen anything from Love. No one had any expectations of Love. No one thought that he was going to come in if Aaron Rodgers struggled that first season. Like, Rodgers was not looking over his shoulder. Kirk Cousins does not have this locker room yet. Now you have two new quarterbacks that are vying for
an old guy and a young guy.
You're like like, it's not good for the culture. That's why I had such an issue with this. I'm like, Kirk is not established here.
No.
So now if Penix goes out and he lights training camp on fire,
all
these guys are going to be like, well, why are we wasting our time with a 36-year-old quarterback who has never really had postseason success, coming off of an Achilles injury, when we could be building with this young guy who clearly has his you-know-what together?
Yep.
I hate it.
Catch.
I hope Cousins still takes the time that he needs to get better.
Drama.
But it's going to be very interesting this season, and I really hope that the Falcons aren't trigger happy and that Kirk is solidified in this job, because it's going to be. I said it on Speak a week ago in regards to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it remains true no matter where you are. If you have two quarterbacks, you have none. And that is what I'm afraid of for Atlanta. We'll see.
All right. Now, last and definitely least, Deshaun Watson, who has been MIA from off-season workouts. I'm not surprised at all. And let me be honest here and say I don't like giving this man any extra time or attention on my show, but he is giving us a good lesson on what not to do when you're coming back from an injury.
Trying to come back from an injury. I did not appreciate kind of the lackadaisical way that he is talking about his rehab. He said it could be sooner rather than later. It could be later rather than sooner. For me, I just take it one day at a time because I don't really know the strategy behind it. I just know that the plan is going to work out, so I just follow it. You compare and contrast what Deshaun's comments are with like Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
I feel so much better about what Joe Burrow is doing right now. And not to mention, we talked about it, Joe Burrow is at OTAs. He's helping the rookies. He's doing everything that your quarterback, your leader needs to do. Deshaun is on his podcast with his quarterback's coach. He is, training away from the facility in LA or rehabbing away from the facility. And he doesn't seem to have any sort of motivation. Why would you when you were guaranteed $236 million no matter what you do?
5-year, $230 million guaranteed contract. He still has 3 years left. It's still the most guaranteed money. And he's only played 12 games over 2 seasons. 6 games each season due to the suspension and injury.
And they're not good games.
That's a lot of money to go 8-4 over 2 years. And the Browns got to the playoff and turned their season around last year, but not with Deshaun Watson.
I don't even like
Joe Flacco off the couch, the comeback player of the year.
I don't even like associating that 8-4 record with Deshaun Watson because to me, wins are not a quarterback stat. I am vehemently against that because especially when you are in Cleveland with a defense that ranks near the top or at the top of the league. The reason that the Browns made the postseason this year was because of the defense.
Yeah.
So I don't want to give any of the quarterbacks credit there. Again, keep the same energy. If you're not going to say that they were good because of Joe Flacco, but Joe Flacco just came in and managed the game, which was true and all they needed.
But also brought that dad energy that everyone needed.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm a big Flacco fan.
Sleeping on the bench.
Right. No.
Beautiful.
But what I cannot wrap my head around is, again, how much you gave up in the trade for Deshaun Watson.
Worse.
On top of guaranteeing him $236 million when he had been out of football already for so long.
And in a scandal. And involved in a gnarly, disgusting scandal.
It's unfathomable to me. This has to go down. And the thing is, to me, too, I don't hear enough of people saying the Browns need to make the Super Bowl in order for this to be, quote unquote, worth it.
This is the worst.
Because I don't like saying that it's worth it either because I don't like all of this stuff off the field and I cannot separate the two. I'm sorry.
No, you cannot separate that.
But everybody's saying like, oh, if we just, make a run, if we just win the
No.
division, if we don't win, I'm like, you paid this man $236 million no matter what. You
Guaranteed.
gave up so much draft capital to get
Guaranteed.
him to the point where the Houston Texans are like 3 years ahead of where they would have been rebuilding wise. And now you're going to tell me that if you just win the division, that's
Nope.
enough for you?
Nope. I don't have good feelings about him coming back or him in general. But
I
we're
don't
going
think
to.
he's a good quarterback
He's
anymore.
not. He's not. He's done. And we're done with him.